You ever stop and think about what's really going on up there in your head? Well, it turns out our brains are running on this secret operating system, a bunch of hidden psychological rules that are kind of surprising and, mostly invisible to us. So let's pull back the curtain and figure out what's guiding how you think, feel, and act literally every single day.
So let me just cut to the chase. Is your brain lying to you? The answer, weirdly enough, is kinda. Yeah. And the craziest part, it's happening all the time, and we're totally clueless about it. So today, we're going to expose some of these mental tricks. For instance,
Have you ever wondered why having a plan B, a safety net, can actually make you more likely to fail at plan A? It sounds completely bonkers, right? But believe me, there's a fascinating reason behind it.
Or what about this one? Why does rejection, getting ghosted or turned down, hurt so bad, like physically hurt? Well, that's because it's not just in your head. Your brain processes that social pain almost the exact same way it processes, say, stubbing your toe. No joke.
And okay, let's get to the really weird one. Why do you see a super cute puppy or a baby and just get this overwhelming urge to squeeze it? Yeah, that's a real thing. And just like everything else we're about to jump into, it pulls back the curtain on another one of your brain's hidden rules.
All right, first up, let's talk about your brain's deceptive little tricks. We're talking about everything from how your memory completely fails you to these sneaky cognitive biases that are basically shaping your entire reality, and you don't even know what's happening.
Okay, imagine this. You're at the grocery store and you've left your list on the kitchen counter. Classic. Now, you can probably remember the first thing on the list, like milk. And you definitely remember the last thing because who could forget chips, right? But all that stuff in the middle? Poof, it's just a blank.
This isn't you having a bad memory. This is a rule your brain follows called the serial position effect. See, our brains are just wired to remember the beginning and the end of things way better than the middle. And the important thing here is that this isn't some personal flaw. It's just how our brains work. Everybody's does this.
and speaking of how our brains are wired, they also have this thing called a negativity bias. It's basically a built-in alarm system. It's the reason why you can get 10 compliments, but that one tiny insult is the thing that sticks with you all day. See, our brains evolved for survival, so they're always scanning for threats, which means they give way more weight to negative stuff than positive stuff.
So how in the world do you fight that? Well, the research points to a magic number. It takes about 5 positive things to cancel out the emotional weight of just one negative thing. So that 5-to-1 ratio, that's what you need to aim for just to feel balanced.
Okay, now for a big one, confirmation bias. This is your brain acting like your own personal yes man. It goes out and actively looks for information that proves what you already believe. It's why we tend to read the news or follow the people online that just echo back our own opinions. And it's not just about seeking out stuff we agree with. Our brains will literally ignore or dismiss facts that contradict what we want to be true. Just knowing this exists is a huge first step to maybe, popping that bubble and making smarter choices.
And maybe the biggest trick your brain pulls on you has to do with your memory. You see, we like to think of our memory as this perfect video recording of the past, right? But it's not at all. It's way more like a story that your brain rewrites and edits every single time you access it. It fills in the gaps, it smooths over the rough spots, and sometimes it just makes stuff up. Wild, right?
So these internal rules aren't just about you sitting alone in a room. Nope, they also write this invisible social script that dictates how we deal with pretty much everyone around us.
So check this out. A study at the University of Pennsylvania showed people 2 different appeals for donations. One was the story of a single, named girl who was starving. The other was a statistic about millions of people dying of hunger. Who do you think got more donations? The single girl, by a landslide. Why? Because helping one person feels like something we can actually do. When a problem seems huge and overwhelming, like millions are dying, our brains kind of shut down. We feel helpless, and we're just way less likely to act. This really shows how our expectations of other people can literally become a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's a name for it, the Pygmalion effect. In this classic study back in the 60s, researchers told teachers that a few of their students, chosen completely at random, were secretly academic bloomers. And what happened? Those kids actually became high achievers by the end of the year, all because their teachers expected them to succeed and treated them differently. Our belief in someone can actually change their reality.
Even something as simple as yawning follows a social rule. Did you know that when you catch a yawn from somebody, it's not really about being tired? It's actually a subconscious sign of empathy. It's your brain's quiet little way of saying, hey, I'm connected to you. I feel what you feel. It's also why little kids, who are still developing their sense of empathy, are way less likely to catch a yawn.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the paradox of motivation. Because let me tell you, some of the basic truths about what gets us going are completely the opposite of what you'd expect.
Just think about those 4 little words that can send a shiver down your spine. We need to talk. Ugh. That feeling of dread, that's your brain absolutely hating uncertainty. In fact, studies show we hate it so much that we would rather know for sure that something bad is about to happen than just be left hanging in suspense. Certainty, even if it's bad news, lets our brain stop spinning its wheels and planning for a million different disasters.
And this craving for certainty, it also explains why we're such masters of procrastination. Think about it. That huge project that's due in 6 months, it feels fuzzy, abstract, uncertain. But answering that one little email that just popped up, that's a quick, easy, certain win. Our brain is wired for that instant gratification, that short-term reward, not the big, scary long-term goal.
Here's another weird paradox for you. When we feel like our freedom is being squeezed by one strict rule, our natural instinct is to break a bunch of other rules. This is a real psychological thing called reactance. It's the classic grounded teenagers scenario. They don't just sneak out of the house, suddenly they're doing a bunch of other risky things. It's all about trying to grab back that feeling of control.
And that brings us right back to that first question we asked. Why does having a solid plan B sometimes sabotage plan A? Well, it all comes down to something called expectancy theory. Basically, your motivation is directly linked to whether you expect to succeed. So when you spend a lot of time and energy creating this perfect backup plan, you're sending a subconscious message to your brain. And that message is, I don't really think plan A is going to work out. And that thought right there can be enough to kill your motivation to actually make it happen.
Okay, for this last section, let's flip the script a bit. I want to reframe some of those common little quirks we all have. What if some of the things you do, the things you might even be a little embarrassed about, are actually hidden superpowers, unexpected signs of some serious strength and intelligence?
Let's just run through a few of these rapid fire. Do you talk to yourself out loud? That's not a sign you're going crazy. It's your brain actually coaching itself to stay focused. What about messy handwriting? That often just means your brain is firing off ideas faster than your hand can possibly keep up. Doodling during a boring meeting? You're not zoning out, you're actually anchoring your brain to help you pay attention and remember more. Got a dark sense of humor? That's often a sign of incredible resilience. It's a coping mechanism. And what if you actually enjoy being alone? That's not being antisocial. That's a sign of real emotional independence.
So there you have it. Our brains are these incredible, complicated machines full of biases, weird paradoxes, and all these hidden rules that are constantly shaping our lives. And yeah, they're not always logical, but the cool part is they are predictable. And once you start to understand these rules, everything changes. You're not just a piece on the board anymore. You can actually start making the moves yourself. So the only real question left is, now that you know the rules, how are you going to play the game?